Welcome to Urban Legends with your hosts, Smartwatch, Neil and Chris, and Omas.
Welcome to Urban Legends. Happy 2023, y'all. This is the internet podcast about urban legends, monsters, myths, made-up tales, etc., etc. I am a superhero, the Rainbow Mollusk, and with me, as always, is my nemesis / SoundCloud rapper. It's Professor Midnight, also known as
Neil Herbert.
Hi, Professor Midnight. How you doing?
Yeah, doing okay. Yeah, plans for world domination afoot.
Yeah, did you have a bit of time off over Christmas?
I was mostly putting together really cryptic riddles for you to solve in the new year about what my upcoming crimes will be.
Oh,
super villainy.
Very super villainy. So do you have any kind of special powers, or are you just sort of a genius, a unhinged genius type of villain?
Well, I mean, according to the PI firm I've paid, I'm a genius level IQ, and obviously, yeah, you know, I've trained my body to the limits of athleticism. You know, use all 10 cents of the brain.
Like that Irish guy who claimed he had like a 215 IQ, and they did the TV series Scorpion about him, but there's no record of him ever taking an IQ test.
Yeah, I'm like him on the IQ side, and then like the guy who did like kickbox or whatever it was called.
Jean-Paul Van Damme.
Jean-Paul Van Damme, yeah.
Jean-Claude
Van Damme.
Jean-Paul Van Damme.
Yeah. Just a tiny little Belgian who can do the splits and beat up loads of people in whatever fighting style.
Wow, that's and also you're
I'm a master of all of the martial arts.
The most martial of all the arts.
Yeah.
Which is the most martial of all the arts is just hitting someone with a stick, isn't it?
Yeah. It's effective.
Chucking a brick at someone.
Yeah.
And you're also a SoundCloud rapper because of your name, Professor Midnight, I believe, as well.
It's kind of a side hustle, to be honest with you. It's
you do mumble rap, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, thanks to the
cough medicine and vodka.
The super villainy career hasn't really been taking off too well. It's sort of, to be honest with you, it's been taking a bit of a toll on my mental health. So I decided to sort of like, you know,
get on the cough medicine and
get on the cough, get on the drink, and you know, maybe release some of my feelings out through
mumble rap.
It's mumble rap, yeah. And, yeah.
Oh, that's good. Well, it's good that you've got creative about that.
You know, it's
it can't be all
connected
work,
with a lot of people. Well, yeah, it just gets tiresome, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, that world
domination. It's kind of like
a lot of admin.
My therapist says I've been setting goals a bit too high, perhaps. You know, maybe I need to be more realistic in my ambitions.
What, like become like a member of local council or something first?
Yeah, you know, or just
become an alderman.
Bribe up the Tory party and get myself into the House of Lords, something like that. Well, there's a real good avenue for doing some super villainy through that, I would imagine.
Certainly is. Yeah. Well, I mean, but it is true to say that in the flats which you live in, you are the head of the residents' association, aren't you?
That's true.
That is actually true because no one else wanted to do it. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly a residents' association, but yeah, director of the company that owns the freehold. Yeah.
You're the director of a company.
Yeah,
and
alarmingly, you can look me up on Company's House.
Really?
I shouldn't say this.
Loads of people putting in complaints.
If there was anyone who could be bothered to stalk me, you now have all the information that you need to track me down.
Oh yeah, well we'll leave that in because it leads the breadcrumbs away from me.
Or is it one of my riddles?
Many riddles. Wow. I mean, we're coming into 2023 hot with this hot action from you now. Excellent. Do you know about anything about me, the Rainbow Mollusk?
Well,
not really.
You've been foiling my escapades for years. Well, I think the listeners might like to know what you know. Well, how did you talk them through how you fooled my last ingenious crime?
Well, what I did is I attached myself to a tidal pool area. And then I filtered in nutrients from the sea, which built up my power. And then I cried a rainbow, which shot into the sky and destroyed that death satellite, which I say death satellite, you catapulted a bin into the air with some TNT in it, like Wile E. Coyote. But using my rainbow powers, powered by tidal silt, then managed managed to avert what could have been a very minor incident.
Okay, so first off, it was just a proof of concept.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so just trying to test the theory out before we get into the satellite stage.
So
I didn't anticipate that happening, despite the fact that that's what happens every time. Some villainy.
Yeah,
we've got nothing better to do. Harass
hard-working man.
Hard-working super villains.
The thing is, I've got a lot of time on my hands because the tide gives me all the nutrition I need, and as a mollusk, I haven't really got a lot going on. So I like to butt my nose in, stop people. I like to get petitions together to stop people like building new sort of blocks of much needed housing around the area, that kind of thing. I like to do. I do a lot of petitions, basically. Try and stop them putting in cycle lanes,
including all of those useless internet petitions that nobody actually bothers to.
Yeah, all of the internet petitions. Do that. I send a lot of.
Had a lot of views about that Disney character, didn't you?
Had a lot of views about that. Yeah, it's protected characteristics now. I like to do a lot of freedom of information acts to the council to ask them such things as how much did they make last year on car parking, that kind of stuff.
How much have you spent on tea making facilities?
That kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. What percentage of paper that is photocopied is actually useless and ends up going in the recycle bin? That kind of thing. Yeah, do a lot of that. So just, I like to have the information. I put it on a website called inmytown.com. I think that website actually exists. I used to work, when I worked for the council briefly, I used to have to deal with a freedom of information request, and it was one bloke pretty much who would send in like 6 a day.
Oh, I can imagine that. That might be a hobby I'd take up and I get really bitter.
Yeah. Nuisance freedom of information.
Although I do, actually vexatious requests. But I do remember, didn't you, there was something to do with the I-360, and then you had somebody emailed you in asking under FOI what the I stood for or something like that?
Yes.
And then you got back a paragraph of absolute bullshit from the architects.
Yeah, that's right.
I for innovation.
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah. So the I-360 is a moving viewing platform in our town, which is really tall. It's like a big chimney, but it's got like a donut round it, which goes up to the top. And then we
used to have a big wheel, but that's like copying everyone else who's done that, especially the London Eye. So now, much more appropriate for Brighton, we have a cock ring.
Yeah, a big movable cock ring.
It's just a large phallic object with a little ring that goes up and down it, and you can see stunning views of Brighton. Look, there's the Royal Pavilion and nothing else.
It's fucking high, man. I've been up it. I hated it. I got vertigo, and that's it in the middle and look at the floor. Because it's because it's being pulled up, so it doesn't feel solid, because it's like pulled up with massive chains, like something else of Victorian age. Yeah. So it's being pulled up.
You must have like that because that's quite steampunk.
Yeah, but I mean,
if it had a chimney,
if there'd been smoke coming out, if there'd been smoke coming out the top, I would have been all up for it. Yeah, perfect. But there wasn't, so I had to stare at the floor. But yeah, so it kind of wobbles a bit as it's going up, and I just did not feel safe. Like it got my vertigo, which I didn't used to have when I was younger, but as I've got older, I've developed it as my sense of mortality has loomed large.
Yeah, I get mild vertigo with stuff like that because you're indoors. Probably wouldn't.
Well, I wouldn't mind if I'm finding a tall building, as long as it's not like one of those stupid, super thin, tall ones like they're doing in New York, which like move around in the wind. I hate that. Yeah,
it's like disturbing, but it's kind of like I've not been up here. I did get
a nice solid building. I'm fine on top of the pyramids. Put it that way now. Yeah, something solid made of bricks. So we both had a bit of time off over Christmas. We got some clones to do.
Stuck in a bunker, weren't we?
Well, the clones were.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, of course. We got the clones to do that.
Of course, the premise, though. Didn't forget.
Yeah, we got the clones to do that. So, I mean, they did some output, so that was good, and it gave us a bit of time off. Yes. So that's nice. So you've had a bit of time, Neil. You've been presumably thinking long and hard. Just thinking.
Just drawing out the very best. What is it?
Yeah, writing stuff on glass with a
with a pen. Yeah, just mind mapping on glass. A lot of equations that don't mean anything.
Split
equals MC squared over and over again.
So, do you have any resolutions for the new year, Neil?
The problem with me is I invariably end up breaking them.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not very good with New Year's resolutions.
Okay, good.
That was a great.
Wonderful avenue to go down.
Go on then. What are your New Year's resolutions?
Well, now as you know, I do a lot of charitable work. I don't like to talk about it, but
or do actually do it.
One of my New Year's resolution is I'm going to start tithing more to the more alms to the poor. So I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to try and be, even kinder to people. People become an even better listener, something like that. I'm going to do that.
Okay, just like just realise that actually perfection needs to be maintained, and then just try and keep it up. Is that where you're going with that one?
Neil, I wouldn't say that I'm anything more than an 8 out of 10 of a personality, but we can all reach higher, can't we? Jesus being 10, Dalai Lama being 9.
The scale isn't 10, I'm afraid.
I'm going to do that. But I'll tell you something which I like to do every year. So because I'm a responsible man, I do carry condoms in my wallet because I'd rather have them and not need them, which is always the case, than not have them and need them.
I think it reminds you of the passing of time when you've thrown them out and replaced them. The futility of this.
So I had a look. Mine run out.
Sisyphus myth.
Mine run out in 4 months. so because I don't like to waste things. So I've got there's 3 things which could happen with these now. Which come into that. So the longest odds is use them in a mutual sexual experience with another human being. Very long odds on that, right? So don't put your money on that unless you want a long shot. Second one, an intimate sexual experience with myself, or posh wank, as Neil calls it, as it's called on the street. But I think the most likely one, because I'm a businessman, and I don't like throwing money away, is I'll use them to become a drugs mule.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so I've got 4 months, so I'll try and become some kind of drugs mule. If anyone has any connections in South America or perhaps Afghanistan, where I'm sure there's lots of flights in and out, then
nothing suspicious there.
Then I can bring my own containers. That's what and I'll make some money. And then what I'll do with that money is I'll potentially buy some more condoms, so that in 4 years then I've got a resupply.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then I'll put the rest of the money. I'll put half into government bonds because that's a safe bet, isn't it? And I'll put half into NFTs, probably the Trump card ones, because I reckon that they'll go up in value over the next 4 years. Because he's probably going to die, isn't he? Of something, I'm not sure what, maybe.
Probably the deep state will try and assassinate him, I would imagine, Chris. Silence is...
either that or a prolapse urethra, I'm not sure. And then when that money comes in, then I can buy more. So do you know what I mean? It's a virtuous circle. So yeah, all I need is the contacts now. Anyway, that's that bit done, Neil. What are we talking about today?
Right, okay. Yes, so we're going to go into the Skunk Ape.
Skunk Ape?
The Skunk Ape.
Is he really?
He's Florida's Bigfoot, Chris.
Is he?
He is. He's
not like a monkey that worked on like Hollywood movies in the 80s and got really into marijuana.
Well, maybe. Maybe. Hangs around Florida a lot, so I think it might just be weed. I think it might be a bit of meth going on as well.
Could be. Do you know what? Like, people always kind of like joke about Florida, kind of Florida man, and Florida being this crazy state because of all the like mad crimes, like someone like getting killed because they were using crocodiles as roller skates or whatever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It's crime, because I looked this up. So I was like, why is it Florida? But the thing is,
areas of Florida.
Well, it's not that. It's that the crimes aren't really any different to anywhere else in America. But Florida have in their constitution or something that all crimes are reported in detail, whereas other places just don't report these crazy crimes. So Florida gets a bad rap, but it's actually because of disclosure.
Oh, well, there you go. I'd always assumed it was because it was a big mix of kind of like heavily urbanised areas and then quite rural areas. Where you think
Orlando's quite violent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well.
But
that's a mouse for you. So, Skunk Ape.
Skunk Ape. So I've got an article today. It's coming from the Smithsonian magazine.
Oh, haughty.
Yeah, and so that's a fairly trustworthy institution, isn't it? So this should be a good one. Mm-hmm. Joseph Stromberg, going back to 2014.
I've left my skeleton to them.
Have you? Think they're actually going to display that, or just put it in the bin?
Probably just put it in the bin.
Yeah, you never know, do
Though that's the one they don't have. I believe they don't have the only kind of skeleton of an animal they don't have is a human. That's they don't have like this is human skeleton. So unless someone gets there before me,
that's unlikely.
Very
I would,
unlikely.
yeah.
I mean, I've not got long.
Well, no, let's be honest.
Maybe to the end of this podcast, who knows?
See, we might skip in and out a little bit to the wiki as well. But I thought that this would be an interesting one. I've not read too far ahead. Keep the excitement going. But this is following basically. I mean, he's very much like, you remember Tim the Yowie Man?
Yes.
Yowie podcaster. This looks like a chap called Dave Shealy, who's very much the kind of Tim the Yowie Man of Florida and the Skunk Ape, if you like. They have a photo of him at the top, posing with a cast of a footprint he made in 1998. It's kind of like a large four-toed kind of foot.
Four-toed, eh?
Yeah. So the first time Dave Shealy saw a skunk ape, he says, he was 10 years old. 1974, a few years after his father had come across a set of footprints left by the creature, an Everglades version of Bigfoot named for its supposedly pungent odour. I mean, I kind of imagine, I don't know, maybe this is like not the right thing to say, but I mean, you wouldn't necessarily think Bigfoot would smell nice, would you?
I don't know.
Not like a skunk exactly, but if you just hang around in the forest, it's not going to...
Well, it depends what kind of animal a Bigfoot is, because do they sweat? Who knows? Probably not. I mean, humans are the only animals that sweat. Does it lick itself clean like a cat? Cats don't smell bad.
No, that's true. Cats are very clean, though, aren't they? They're always cleaning themselves. But
are Bigfoots? We don't know.
Yeah, this is true. That's just, obviously just my prejudice against Bigfoots. But
which has come to the forefront very early now.
Yeah, well, there you go. I call them like I see them. Anyway, this is a smelly Bigfoot. So Dave was out deer hunting with his older brother Jack, 10 years old, okay. And deer hunting with his older brother Jack in the swamp behind his house in what's now Big Cypress National Preserve when he encountered the ape incarnate.
Ape incarnate?
That's what they called it. So,
what? So is it reincarnation of an ape?
Yeah, I don't know, interesting word. So it was walking across the swamp, and my brother spotted it first. I couldn't see it over the grass. I wasn't tall enough. My brother picked me up, and I saw it about 100 yards away.
That's some dangerous hunting.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not tall enough to see over the grass, like, I can imagine there's snakes and shit and alligators. I mean, was he like Amos Moses? Was he being used as alligator bait?
Well, it's entirely possible.
You only got one because the alligator bit it.
Yeah, he doesn't look to have both arms and legs, so seems to have avoided any gator issues.
Marvellous.
So they'd heard about it and knew for sure what they were looking at 100 yards away. It looked like a man, but was completely covered with hair. He and his brother stared at the creature, mouthed agape, but almost at the same time as he tells it, the skies opened and rain poured down. The ape hurried away into the cypress hummocks scattered across the marsh. Holy crap, he remembers thinking. I finally saw this damn thing and it got away just like that. He finally saw it. He's only 10 years old and he was like...
It's really... Yeah, but I mean, they grow up quick in the swamps.
Yeah.
It was really world-weary. Man, I've reached middle-age. I haven't seen...
I've been wanting to see a skunk ape since I was 3 years old.
My dad's been talking about it for over a week.
The fleeting moment left an indelible impression on young Shealy, who's now 50 years old. Well, this was written 9 years ago. He's been nearly 60 now. In the decade since, he's relentlessly pursued skunk apes and seen them, he says, on 3 other occasions.
In the what? In the decades. Okay, sorry.
In the decade since, yeah.
So this is calling.
Yes, this is his life's work by the sound of it.
Does he have any normal work? I mean, I can't imagine there's a lot of money in it.
I don't know. Then maybe I've not read ahead, as I say, so we'll see. Okay. We'll see what it tells us. He's written a field guide, made TV appearances, continually investigated reported sightings, and established a Skunk Ape research headquarters on his property, where tourists can learn all about the legendary creature. He bills himself as the Jane Goodall of skunk apes.
So she's the one from Gorillas in the Mist.
That's right, yeah. She went out to live with the gorillas. I am the expert, he told a Bigfoot website last year. The state and county expert on the Florida skunk ape and have been for years.
I think I should probably just interject here to let the listeners know that I actually weigh as much as an average female gorilla. So just a little bit of information there. Continue.
It's a good fact for our audience.
Thanks, nice, isn't it? Yeah, put that in. That'll be in the next year's Christmas quiz.
Yeah, no one's getting that, including you. In July 2000, he captured one of the encounters on video. In the grainy daytime footage shot from hundreds of feet away, the creature spends a minute or so moseying around in a hummock of palm trees. Then shortly after, it begins striding across the open swamp, and it breaks into a long limb run.
Oh, like T-1000s.
Yes.
Terminator 2.
Well, it could be a robot ape, couldn't it?
Could be. Escape from Universal Studios.
Yes.
Became sentient.
Well, that was the combined Teen Wolf and Terminator sequel that they didn't want you to know about.
It was bizarrely problematic. I don't really know whether There's a lot of stuff there that didn't really need to be in it.
They escaped into a grove of palm trees. Sheely notes that at the time, the swamp was covered by over a foot of water, making the animal's speed, which he estimates to be 22 miles an hour. No information on how he's estimated that.
Well, he had one of those speed radar guns.
Oh, yeah, that's what it'll be. Impossible for any human to achieve.
What? Usain Bolt could do that.
but it's extremely hard to watch this video and see anything but a guy in a gorilla suit across the This says our report
with like waving the arms in the air.
Yeah. It's not quite.
The head sort of comes off a bit.
So I did watch the footage. You can Google it. So Dave Shealy's 2000 Skunk Ape footage, and they've linked a video in. So yeah, it's pretty much. It's one of those ones where it's really blurry and from far away, and then they zoom, so you can't really see. And the camera's shaking constantly all the time as well.
Yeah,
so you can't get a clear grip on it.
Yeah, that is eye opener.
Yeah. You can't really see, but let's say to be as charitable as possible, it definitely could be somebody in a gorilla suit.
Oh, mate, we've got to do a version of that.
Yeah, we'll do our own sort of sighting or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be tempted to do like a Mothman or something, but yeah, it's probably harder to fake that kind of thing. Well, they did get those lads from Manchester who did the Owlman, didn't they, down in Cornwall?
Yeah, it wasn't a lot to that.
Not a lot, that's for sure. So according to any respectabilist, the Skunk Ape doesn't exist. People do report seeing them.
Respected by who now?
Yeah, exactly. The
establishment.
Yeah.
So they're respected by something I don't respect.
Yeah.
Tells you all you need to know.
I was going to say, I can't think what the opposite of Bigfoot is, but...
small hands?
Yeah.
Sleepy small hands? Trump.
So people report seeing this mythical creature from time to time, says a public affairs officer with the preserve. There's never been a substantiated sighting of the Skunk Ape that was verified by the National Park Service wildlife staff. Oh. Well, maybe if they got out behind their desks and did some real work like this guy, they'd see them.
Fucking paper pushers. The thing is, though, that you would also imagine that part of their remit would be to protect, if it's a very rare species, to protect it and cover it up, wouldn't you?
Cover it up, yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe it's in charge of the parks.
Maybe it's running the park.
Maybe it's running team.
Yeah. It's heavily, the Skunk Apes are lobbying hard.
Well, I mean that's what
DeSantis is getting paid off by the Skunk Ape to deny his existence.
Yeah, the Skunk Ape also produces most of his policies.
Yeah, he also has a lot of abhorrent views about various different things.
Well, there was that whole thing there's a whole scandal over Christmas or just before Christmas in Brussels, wasn't there, where there were skunk apes that were recorded paying off members of the European Council with suitcases full of dollars from that.
Yeah,
skunk ape lobbying firms. And
heavily disputed, but there've been firms selling dodgy PPE during the COVID crisis.
Mm-hmm. A lot of it's been traced back.
Linked to skunk apes in the UK, and America. So yeah,
well, just start pulling at these strings now. Whole tapestry starts
following the money. Yeah, nobody wants to know. So yeah, and then they basically report.
You've got a hit out on you on the dark web, which is run by the Skunk Ape.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How far does it go?
Silk Road.
All the way up and down.
From the very bottom to the very top.
Skunk Apes all the way through, like a stick of rock.
Yeah, they're like the roots underneath the tree, which is our society.
Corruption.
The corrupt roots.
Cain was originally a skunk ape.
That's what I've heard.
The original sin was just basically
I heard that on the original copy of the Bible, which was found in Dead Sea Scrolls, which was hushed up, they were actually kicked out of the Garden of Eden because Eve had sex with a skunk ape. That's what I heard. Yeah. That's what I've heard. But they didn't want that because the skunk apes were in charge of the Vatican, so they hushed it up.
Which, when they translate it into Latin, of course, because from the original languages, then it would have read skunk ape, but they've just put that to mean devil.
Yeah, apple.
It's sort of covering up.
Sex turned to eat, and because she had sex with the skunk ape of knowledge.
Yes,
I believe, but they changed sex to eat and skunk ape to apple. Little switch and bait now.
Yes,
little shift to Rooney.
Emperor Constantine.
Who was a skunk ape?
Yes,
who was half skunk ape.
Who's skunk ape as well. Yeah, I know what I've seen, says Dave Shealy. For someone who hasn't come here and put in the time to say otherwise, doesn't really matter to me.
Mm-hmm.
Hate is gonna hate, I believe, is what he's saying there.
Don't hate the player.
So, to a curious observer, all this prompts an important question.
He's quite sassy, isn't he? He's like Carla. Yeah. He's like Carla from Cheers or something.
But he's run out of fucks to give, as the kids say these days. 15 years ago.
Yeah, he's living in all our heads rent free or something.
Yeah. To a curious observer, all this prompts an important question. Is Sheely a visionary biologist, a mistaken eyewitness, or an enterprising fraud?
Oh.
We're about to find out, we think.
Are we?
He's got a big place. I don't know where he gets his money from. It's because it shows all on his properties. Yeah. For somebody who's what looks like his full-time living is just
going around in a swamp.
I can't imagine it's that profitable, even if it is a fraud.
Well, it depends. I don't know how much you get for TV appearances and stuff. He's probably sold some books and that.
I imagine you're making much, though.
But how expensive is property in a swamp?
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? It's not prime real estate. It's not downtown Miami, is it? It's not South Beach.
Yeah, no, this is true. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the price of real estate in these parts of Florida. So to try answering the question, he made the ship to Sheely's property in Ochapee, Florida, an hour's drive into the Everglades from the west. He met him at the research headquarters, which also serves as a gift shop that sells Skunk Ape T-shirts and shot glasses, a campground, a base for his staff of 5 to give swamp buggy and airboat tours, and a home from his menagerie of 10-foot-long pythons and talking parrots.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's a little...
So far, so Tiger King.
Yeah. I mean, he's making a bit of money then, isn't he, for sort of 5 staff?
Yeah.
Like people probably just want to do, because people want to do the boat thing, don't they?
Yeah, a lot of people are going out in the Everglades.
Fan boats or whatever they're called.
And to be fair, keeping pythons and parrots is probably fine. I would imagine it's not like keeping. Yeah. So a pair of hunters claim the ape invaded their camp in 1957.
Right.
It's unclear who coined the name Skunk Ape, but it appears to have surfaced sometime during the 60s. And the 60s and 70s, the period when Sheely had his first sighting, more and more reports trickled in, as far north as the Florida Panhandle, but most often in the Everglades. It eventually attracted mainstream attention, including a bill introduced but not passed in the Florida legislature in 1977 that would have made it illegal to take, possess, harm or molest anthropoid or humanoid animals.
Okay.
It's around that time that Sheely, a teenager...
Why didn't it pass, I wonder?
Well,
no, may I have the floor? Since my granddaddy and my great-granddaddies have always molested humanoid apes. It's the American way. I cannot, with a clear conscience, imagine a world where my children are not allowed to molest ape humanoids.
I imagine it was rejected because people didn't feel it as an entirely serious kind of bill. But
but there's no harm in passing it.
Yeah. Well, they tried to stick on a load of pork barrel tax stuff at the end, probably, didn't they?
Yeah, and a 200% raise.
You know, they've only done it to themselves. We'd like to pass this, but without the amendments, etc., etc. It was around this time that Sheely, a teenager, spotted evidence of the creature for the second time in the form of an enormous 4-toed footprints left at night behind his hunting camp. So occasional sightings continue on for years. And the Skunk Ape hit the news again in 1997 when passengers on a tour bus travelling through the preserve claimed they spotted the animal. And that was 30 or 40 people all saying the same thing.
Ooh.
So a 7-foot red-haired ape. After decades of idle interest in the creature, he decided to get serious about finding it, baiting the area with lima beans. The story goes that the omnivorous apes love the legume, and he repeatedly found the beans missing in the morning, along with tracks left in the night. Then, just 2 miles away, a pair of local residents, Jan Brock, a real estate agent, and Vince Durr, chief of the Ochapee Fire Control District, spotted a large, hairy biped minutes apart while driving through the preserve one morning in July. The thing just ran in front of my car, Brock told me when I called her after my visit. It was shaggy-looking and very tall, maybe 6.5 or 7 feet. Durr, who had told me he never believed in the Skunk Ape before seeing it cross the road about half a mile in front of his car, snapped a photo of it just before it vanished into the swamp. And I got a photo from 97, and as you would normally expect, it's kind of grainy and you can't really see anything, but there's a humanoid-like shape in the woods. There you go, you know.
Yeah.
So he thought, I'm going to spend the next 6 months looking for this thing. He remembers vowing at the time. I'm not going to do anything else. Every day I'm going to get up and go looking until I see it. Again, I wonder how he's got the... I mean, maybe he's just like independent wealth, I suppose. It doesn't explain what he does as a day job or anything like that. I'd be quite interested. I mean, good luck to him if he can.
Well, I think he runs that kind of sort of a tourist attraction, doesn't he?
But it sounds like when he was I mean, maybe that was it. It was just kind of like
he had some
kind of like does rides and things like that.
Yeah.
in the
he does like
the Everglades, and then just he's able to take some time off work. And
I mean, he's got 5 staff to do that. So.
Oh yeah, I don't know if he had 5 staff at this point. You know what I mean? But good luck to him. So Sheely set up a few.
It is always fascinating where because America as well famously has not a great social security system as well. So I'm always fascinated how these people live, like how they can finance.
If you need an operation or something like that, or what have you, maybe just don't worry about it.
But I mean, even if like how do they pay their bills? and taxes and stuff. It's got no idea, because you couldn't do that in this country. In the UK, could you? You couldn't just go, right, I'm going to go and hunt. Unless you were independently wealthy already. You couldn't just go, I'm going to take a year off work.
Well, that's exactly my point. Is like you'd have to be independently wealthy, and it's kind of like...
maybe got a fair bit of inheritance.
Yeah. I mean, he owns a 30-acre property, so I mean, I don't think he just kind of got that in his 20s. So whether he inherited...
No, he didn't buy that,
parents, I don't know. But he might have set up his own business, I really don't know. But anyway, just curious, but then I'm getting into it. Back in the area and waiting for the Skunk Ape, or trekking across the Everglades, trying to find the creature's trail. I mean, that'd be an all right job, wouldn't it?
I mean, I wouldn't really want to be tracing through the Everglades personally. A bit dangerous. Yeah, keep you fit, lose a bit of weight when the alligator takes your leg.
Finally, on September the 8th, 98, he was rewarded with his second sighting. Perched in a tree and half asleep, I heard something splashing in the water. Splash, 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 he tells me.
Splash, splash, splash. Come on in, the world is fine. You're a musky gentleman.
You like this musk?
You like this musk? I got some lima beans here.
At first, I thought it was a person.
Hey, why are you wearing so much, buddy? Come on, we're all friends here. Why don't you slip out of those and come and join me in the splash splash for some lima beans? Is
this him trying to attract the Skunk Ape or vice versa?
Vice versa.
Oh, right.
Well, I mean, either.
Either.
Yes. Both of them at once.
Broad-minded place, the Everglades. It's all good. So he thought it was a person, but then from about 100 yards away, he saw it coming towards him. It was a skunk ape, same we saw as a kid. As it walked by, unaware of being observed, so they're apparently a bit short-sighted, some of these skunk apes. He shot several photos of it, watching it disappear into a nearby tree hummock. Oh, okay, it wasn't walking. So it looks like it's not looking at him, but it's
just having a wander
working sort of past where he is. Okay. It sounded like we said walking towards me. I just thought
directly towards him.
Yeah. Later,
Skunk Ape, nice to meet you.
Yes.
Here's my card.
Now you've been around bothering skunk apes in this area.
I hope you realise this is my fucking land.
Yeah.
And I will not stand for trespassers.
So he made a concrete cast footprint which still sits in the gift shop. Then we come back to the present day. He's finished skinning the frogs.
Oh, finally. What are they for?
For the intrepid journalists and frog clicks. He keeps pythons and talking.
Yeah, parrots. But the parrots are the frogs for the pythons to eat, presumably.
He makes them a lunch of frog legs. So, but presumably pythons could eat frogs, I guess. Yeah.
So he's doing it
to skin them.
Also, he's making it for him and the journalists, the frogs.
The frogs' legs, he did.
Yeah. So he's eating the frogs himself.
I don't know if they even.
Well, that keeps costs down, doesn't it?
Yeah. If you're eating stuff around their local area, then it's going to be. So look, and he's telling about his two most recent sightings. So he spotted again in 2000 when he filmed the video clip, and the latest was in 2011 when he was picking saw palmetto berries in the swamp and was startled by an unforgettable odour. Right away, I could smell it, kind of like a wet dog and a skunk mixed together. So not a pleasant odour then.
No, although I don't have any frame reference to what a skunk smells like, apart from terrible.
It's kind of like lynx.
Oh, okay. Oh dear, it's like dupe.
Yeah, it makes me dupe. Ooh, that stings the back of the nostrils.
I like to smell like a sweet shop for the ladies.
Emerging behind a palm frond, spotted Chile and bolted, leaving no evidence. He still searches for the skunk ape, concentrating his work mostly in March and April, when the dried-out swampland allows for easier hiking and preserves tracks better. You can buy his field guide for $5 at his gift shop. He's seen it through.
So is he encouraging people to go out themselves? Because that sounds irresponsible.
He was even filmed for an episode of Finding Bigfoot, the Animal Planet reality show. Although he was infuriated when the producers balked at the logistical difficulties of travelling into the swamp to investigate a sighting and asked him to fake it in his backyard instead.
Oh, fucking Hollywood's bigwigs. Disgusting. Can you fake it in the back? How would I do that? Well, you've got that gorilla suit you used before. What? No, we saw it. Shut up. That's for
we'll just CGI it. Honestly, no expense spared. Great.
It's like Jason. It's like Jason and the Argonauts.
Yeah, exactly.
Claymation.
It's the open source, claymation footage. King Kong or something.
It's just clips from Harry and the Hendersons. Yeah. When we went to go and find this one, babe, we were lucky enough to meet John Lithgow.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think she's like, yeah. Well, the only thing I mentioned about the footage is that quite clearly John Lithgow is in the background. Many people question Chili's authenticity, something that weighed upon me as I ate the lunch he'd made for me and politely listened to his claims. Apart from the sheer unlikeliness of the skunk ape's existence, critics point out that Chili openly profits from the supposed animal, selling the stuff on his thing and offering swamp tours. He even applied for a grant from the Collier County Tourism Development Council to fund his research. And that was, conveniently after he's released his skunk ape footage shortly before the hearing.
I mean, the thing is, though, right, even if it's not real, if it's bringing tourists into the area, then I don't see why you couldn't apply for a tourist grant, because it's probably, I don't know, there's a lot else going there that bring people in.
Yeah, because it is from the Tourism Council. I agree with that, because it was used to fund research, but actually it was from the Tourism Development Council. So, yeah, why not? It'd be like the Rougarou people, make a bit of a festival out of it and stuff.
Yeah.
But they don't do stuff like this here, apparently. So listen to this. Is the Naples Daily News columnist Brett Batten, who's a sassy fellow by the sound of it. This is what he wrote at the time.
All the way from Italy.
Yeah. Anyone who doubted the existence of the Skunk Ape should now be converted. The same way that anyone who doubted the existence of flying saucers carrying evil space aliens would have a change of heart after seeing Plan 9 from outer space.
Mic drop. Get the Savlon, because this man is burnt.
So belief in mythological animals may be as old as humanity itself. Nearly every country's folklore contains at least one magic creature into its folklore has no place in modern science. Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, thousands of others. British folklore prominently features supernatural black dogs associated with death that roam the countryside. We've sort of covered that, haven't we, with the...
we'll do.
Yeah, not those particular ones, although we've done... I can't remember. We did.
There's been black dogs turn up all over the world, like with El Sombreron. He had dogs, and before he plaited the tails of donkeys or whatever.
Yeah.
And can't remember, there was another one of the Christmas ones. But black dogs are quite a regular thing throughout the world.
So I'm going to skip ahead a bit on these paragraphs, but basically, back in the day, it would have been easy to sort of miss some of these things, but now there's so much been discovered.
Arrogant.
However, Peter Dendel, a professor at Penn State University who writes about folklore and cryptozoology, said that it serves as staking a line and saying, you scientists don't know everything. There are still truths out there to be discovered. Apparently, cryptid enthusiasts are disproportionately male and share outsider traits, distaste for authority, rugged connection with the outdoors, and a hearty sense of individualism and self-reliance.
Like us?
Yeah. So...
I've got a third mattress off of my bed, by the way.
Right.
Cozy.
Is it topped enough yet?
Yeah, I think 3 will do it. It's already got built-in memory foam topper anyway. Yeah, so 3 will do.
Yeah.
Just so I don't have to feel that pee.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say get another mattress underneath it as well.
At my last place.
Okay, so the next few paragraphs is basically going on about how...
I'd just like to say, Neil, that my masculinity isn't tied into having an uncomfortable night's sleep.
Fair enough.
We go.
There's a lesson there for all of us. Just talking about how basically people have psychological conditions that cause them to sort of need to believe in these things.
So they're really... I mean, this has started cutting quite
It's getting into a bit of character assassination, really. So...
some people are just nutters, some people make shit up because they want attention,
Well, it's kind of what I'm saying. So, the sense of doing something with a higher purpose, because maybe they can be the one to solve the mystery and become famous and respected, which they might not have in their life otherwise.
Well, they have that. That's a big trait in conspiracy theorist people, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Sort of having secret knowledge.
Yeah, that's what ties a lot of that stuff together. Anyway, so it talks about then the kind of the reasons why that wouldn't happen. But then it says also, on the other hand, there's some rational reasons. Well, sorry, he did find one thing that sort of, supported a bit more. So the line between real animals and cryptids is much messier than you might imagine.
Tell me about it.
Carl Linnaeus' 1735 Landmark text of modern biology, Systema Naturae, listed pelican, antelope and narwhal as cryptids. As recently as the start of the 20th century, the Komodo dragon, the giant squid and the octopi were thought to be cryptids before the Western scientific establishment changed its mind in the face of evidence. So dozens of new mammal species have been discovered since the start of the 21st century even, although there are less extraordinary cases. Anyway, yada, it basically says that, maybe there's stuff out there that we don't know about.
Yeah.
That we don't understand about the world, Sheely tells him as they go down an overground path of the river's property. So some Bigfoot believers believe that the creatures could be a tiny relative of a population of ape species thought to have gone extinct millions of years ago. Yada.
You're doing a lot of yada-ing.
I'm just kind of summarising because there's a bit more here than I realised. I'm just trying to pick out the nuggets that are useful. I don't know.
Knowledge nuggets.
Oh, here we go. So we talked about his life in the swamp, his family's history there, which dates to 1891.
Okay.
He settled and built the area's first schoolhouse. Decades they catered to tourists, giving swamp tours and renting spots on their campground.
Okay.
So his family's lived out there since, fair enough.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound like he's set up this tourist business. It sounds like it was already well established. Yeah. The campground and the boat
fair
tours.
Enough, but it's been inherited. So, in the modern day, it'd be hard to set something like that up. So
nice.
Still running it. So
wish I'd inherited a boat tour company.
That'd be all right, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
However, once they established a preserve in 1974, it bought out most of his neighbours, and things took a turn for the worse. The park took all our air buggy trails and swampback trails, and they built their own campground. They stole our 50-year customer base, he said. My mum and dad worked hard for this place, and then the government built 6 campgrounds and instructed their employees to tell people not to come here. They wanted us gone. Most infuriating was if he wanted to keep giving visitors tours on swamp property, he'd have to sit down in a classroom and take an official test.
Well, I mean, how long does that take?
I don't know, but hey, he's been out there living it, Chris.
2-hour test.
Some pencil neck know about the
I know, but sometimes you have to jump through hoops.
Yeah. Anyway, he's
considering he's going how hard his parents worked to build it up, and he can't be bothered doing a test. Do you know what I mean? They worked for 50 years building this up. Right, we need you to come in and sign this form. No way, spoiled child.
Anyway, so they acknowledged that preserve creation was controversial. I think because they bore a lot of people out and tried to force them off. But anyway, so he went back to talk about the skunk ape, pointed out plants in the surrounding area believes the family of 6 to 12 existing animals feed on, and complained that the park authorities, who can declare the animal didn't exist, haven't spent nearly as much time as him in the swamp.
I don't think anyone has.
Yeah, so he's getting into a bit of a thing with the
big government,
the federales. Problem is he's got no hard proof, which is what comes in with a lot of this stuff.
I mean, that is a problem.
It's just sightings, so there's that makes it very hard to do things. But does that make him a fraud? Many have observed the animal in these images looks remarkably like a person in disguise, and some have even speculated it's his media reverse brother Jack, who's the only other person present at his very first sighting wearing the costume. Who
keeps in a shed.
Yeah.
Just loads of smashing.
Like something out of Friday the 13th, yeah.
He's like Sloth from the Goonies.
Yeah. Some shrine to their dead parents in there. Worships.
Throws in the remains of the frogs.
Yeah. That's what happens with the nog leg bits. But our reporter decides that he spent a day.
No, he's not in the shed. He's just media shy. Yeah. No one's seen him. He's off the grid. What was that? Nothing. Interview over. Now you calm down, Jack boy. Your France is coming.
Oh, he's been at the whiskey.
Who put whiskey in there with it?
It's harmless.
Not even Bullet can stop him now. He'd been at the train. He'd been at the boat fuel. He'd been huffing on the boat fuel. You get your costume on, Jack. You get your costume. You go out. You go out there. We got tourists here. We got a man from a big newspaper. You go out there. Your mommy and daddy, you and mama, papa proud now, boy. You go out there. You get more boat fuel when you come back, Jack boy. Now you go out. You go do a lap. Me, mama, papa proud. You get more frog. Play more frog where that came from.
You don't like frogs?
No frog.
Taste.
You don't go out there, you don't even get no frog, Jack boy. Frog's all you can fall.
That's one potential interpretation.
That's what I got from it.
Yeah. So the report.
I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong.
It's merely one thesis that we can explore.
Hope you listen.
Theories we can explore. Yes. So,
like the Robert the Doll people.
Yes. Well, yeah. I'm definitely more on the side of that being But hey, having a bit of fun with it.
They retweeted us. So there we go.
No, that's fair enough.
They're into it.
Good on them. He's enjoyed spending his time with this guy. He's thinking he's generous and likable. Listen to his stories. He seems all right according to our reporter.
All his stories are based on swamps.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot banging on about swamp apes. To be honest,
he's a bit one note.
Yeah. A lovely guy, don't get me wrong, but
there's only so many hours you can listen to about
banging on about park rangers and park rangers. And
only 10% was about swamp ape, and 90% about it was the federal government and its issues with it.
Yeah,
and the merits of being a sovereign citizen.
Well, you know that the Pope owns all of the businesses in the world, Chris, so therefore that empowers us to... Do you ever see that clip of the...
No.
Oh, I won't get into it.
Yeah, Pope died, didn't he?
Yeah, oh yes, yeah.
Ratzenberger.
As we're speaking, yes.
Yeah.
The last Pope, or the current one. Well, they reckon he might retire now, might he, Francis? Because
really? Well, that's just what they're doing now. They're just
he's been talking about wanting to retire for about the last 10 years.
I thought you couldn't retire from being the Pope.
Well, the last one was the first one to do it in 600 years.
And now they're just going, put a couple of years in, then you get your pension.
It's 85, to be fair.
Yeah, so what?
Oh, it's going to be anarchy, isn't it? It's going to be like...
Oh, what? Doing what? Doing
when you pay for 2 years.
Oh, it's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
We'll end up
that's what the Catholic Church needs, stability. stick to the old ways.
The Queen went on until she was like 93, and I think she does more than the Pope, or did more than the Pope. So,
yeah, fair enough.
I know. It's about tradition, Neil. I really care.
That's why C&E is the best religion, obviously.
Exactly. Baker's the best Christian religion.
I don't know, he's just banging on about now as something else he'd seen. So,
what now? Lizard Man?
No, he followed a pair of tracks until they came across something unexpected. A tall barbed wire fence that enclosed a mysterious primate breeding facility. As he stood there listening to the whooping cries of monkeys, but following the tracks as they continued away, he speculated that the skunk ape had been attracted to the cries of his distant brethren. Now, funnily enough, the reporter tracks this down, but there is a primate facility up the road from his house. So he was able to, the reporter drives up there, see what he can find.
What's this facilitating?
I would imagine they're testing monkeys or something. I really don't know. I'm just reading through now.
Testing monkeys out in the swamp.
Well, no, they get them to. Well, they're presumably trying to breed a set of.
What kind of test? General knowledge.
Well, no, this is where all the skunk apes are kept. They want to breed a skunk ape army, don't they?
Yeah, I mean they're good in swamp terrain.
Well, they're excellent marksmen. They're good at hiding.
Wonderful.
If all else fails, they can put you off with their scent.
Wonderful at orienteering.
Yes.
Yeah, great with a compass and a map.
Like Rambo, they could eat things that would make a billy goat puke.
Yeah, well, good at guerrilla tactics, unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
They're unconventional.
Patton said, if you gave me a platoon of these skunk apes, I'd win this war by Tuesday.
I'd be marching on Berlin by Tuesday. Give me a platoon of skunk apes. Yes. I've often said that if there had been a platoon of skunk apes, it would have shortened the war by 6 months, haven't they?
Yeah. It's Monkey Krieg. I don't know what German for monkey is.
Skunk Krieg. Yeah, just skunk apes all high on amphetamines.
Yes. Just
running through the French countryside. We can dream.
So he got the feeling that he was being watched. He wrote, there's a huge sign hammered into 2x4 saying, warning private property. If you're employed by a local, state or US government agency or a curious individual, you must have prior permission to enter this property. Even those with clearance, it warned, had to proceed directly to their job site. Permission to enter is not permission for sightseeing or looking around.
Oh, that's quite weird. That's the spookiest bit so far.
Yeah, this is odd. So it's just called Primate Products Incorporated.
Oh dear.
So he decided his curiosity didn't
selling gonads to the Chinese market.
Well, who knows? But didn't justify getting arrested inside a monkey breeding facility deep in Florida's Black Country. But was it so far-fetched to think the whole thing might be a case of mistaken identity and the skunk ape was actually an escaped primate? Apparently, it's not the only primate breeding centre in the area.
An escaped primate in a monkey suit.
Yeah. There's also there's a skunk ape research headquarters. Okay, yeah. So there was a 3,000 primate compound nearby that they were planning to build. So where
but they actually own it.
Yes, there's Primate Products, and then there's a research organisation called the Mannheimer Foundation, an hour north, that houses a reported 5,000 baboons and, I don't know, macaques, is it?
Macaques, yeah.
Macaque monkeys. Yeah, in July 2013, an unidentified company released plans to build another 3,000 primate compound.
Okay, now this is like primate murder
This
central.
is a proper little business out there, apparently. Apparently, the mild winters make it an ideal climate to breed and maintain non-human primates in a setting that is very close to their natural habitat.
And human primates up the road. I mean, could the skunk ape be some kind of spirit of dead monkeys, like something out of a Hayao Miyazaki movie, like Studio Ghibli, kind of wanders through sadly?
Well, you do wonder, because actually there's a good photo here in a minute, actually. But so could a resident primate actually escape and survive in the wild? The company Primate Products declined to comment. But Bob DeGrosse, the Preserve Public Affairs Officer, told me that he's seen escaped primates several times, likely the result of people releasing unwanted exotic pets into the wild.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in America, isn't there?
Yeah,
especially
and then once, because of Hurricane Andrew. And there are several confirmed wild self-sustaining monkey populations statewide, including one in Naples.
I mean, they're not human-sized monkeys.
No. So there's a
because there isn't many of them.
Because I've got a picture down here, though. In 2000, the photo sent in, and you can see it reasonably clearly.
Is that the one where it's kind of in a field?
Yeah, it's identified by experts as an orangutan.
Really?
Yeah. So it looks like they've been having some monkey escapes. So yeah, the last species might be the most interesting, given the best-known photographs of alleged skunk ape, which arrived in an unmarked envelope, along with an unsigned letter on December 22nd, 2000. They purportedly showed an animal that had repeatedly climbed to the back deck of the photographer's house, and the letter speculated it was an escaped orangutan. An author and cryptozoology enthusiast analysed the creature's anatomy and agreed with the orangutan hypothesis, as did Canadian Wildlife Service biologist
Canada known for its orangutan population.
Well, yeah, but if you're an expert in
joking.
zoology or whatever, then you might specialise in that. The Skunk Ape enthusiast sees upon the images as further evidence.
So was the orangutan an escaped pet, or are they? I mean, they can't be doing. I mean, they can be, but I mean, they can't be doing experiments on orangutans, can they?
We wouldn't have thought so, but
because they're like really endangered.
They don't say, but it's just that there are. I mean, I don't know how many. Well, yeah, but also you would hope it was incredibly unlikely that people are holding orangutans. If you can, you
can have tigers and shit.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows what people are sort of having at home? Don't know. It doesn't. I mean, they don't really know, obviously, do they? Where it came from? There's nothing that says that they're keeping orangutans in this company place, but who knows? Anyway, Dave Shealy thinks that it looks more like a skunk ape than an orangutan. So
of course he does.
Yeah.
Thinks a reporter looks more like a skunk ape than a reporter. To be fair.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a number of things. So unidentified primate escapes from a breeding facility. Could be a chimpanzee and orangutan. Oh, so it could be an orangutan coming from the breeding facility. So it sounds like they are potentially breeding orangutans.
Yes, I don't like the sound of these facilities.
No, I mean, that sounds a bit dodge. So anyway, it tells a story. So that's how we'll wrap that one up. I'm just going to quickly have a shifty at Wiki just to see
if it's appeared.
If it's, he's been in an episode of Supernatural, etc. So we talked so just a couple of highlights. We already talked about the ones in the 50s and 70s. Also in the 70s, a couple of sheriff's deputies reported seeing an ape-like creature before they shot at it with their firearms.
Also did.
Yeah, beautiful. Saw some hands.
Its rear light was out.
Please, you were around here more.
His rear light was out, so they had to put 87 clips into them.
Well, yeah, it's defending themselves, Chris.
Exactly.
As per training, per the 3 hours of training.
Yeah, I mean, we'd tricked him completely naked, but he was reaching for a gun.
Literally didn't have bipedal thumbs, or not bipedal.
No, it had hooves.
Opposable thumbs, but they could have picked up. But it could have been arms. You don't know.
Could have been, It's better
safe than sorry. Might have been a machine gun for all we know. We've seen various.
To be fair, both the cops were given 2-week suspension with pay.
Well, in fairness, a wild animal. I'm sure that's what you do is fire at it. There's been sightings by tour operators, but then there's not much more really on here. Some people might think it's around American black bears.
Yeah,
the Park Service consider it to be a hoax.
Also,
and also it's here's a good one. So it's not that big in popular culture, although it's very well known around Florida. So the skunk ape has been widely adopted across Florida as an unofficial mascot for wilderness and rural culture, including appearing in roadside businesses and attractions, television commercials, and signs. Now, our latest
skunk ape tacos.
Tasty. Well, you like your monkey
Well, I don't like them.
Well, you eat them if you have to.
If
it's only in the petrol station at the back in the morning, you take beggars can't be choosers.
Exactly.
But during the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, several Florida businesses used the skunk ape's reported foul smell to promote social distancing. And I did see there's
being like a skunk ape, and imagine the person next to you is a skunk ape.
It's more insane than that. I saw this. I think it was on YouTube or something. You can link this through the wiki, but it does show the advert. Well, actually, I think it was like a news channel, and they show the advert. Basically, it's one of those adverts you can imagine. It's just like on public channels or something like that. It's really, really low production value. And somebody in what I can describe as a Chewbacca costume. There's 2 people who want social distance, and he jumps out the middle of them and kind of hits them, and they go flying around. And then one of them goes, "Thank you for social distance. Skunk Ape, I'm sure I do feel better now, better protected now," or something.
I mean, at least they were trying social distancing. A
guy in a denim kind of like onesie. So. Look very much like one of those Duck Dynasty guys. But so there you go. Look that up if you fancy it. So there you go, the legend of the skunk ape, Chris. I don't know how long we've been weighing on about that, but
long time. I get it. So, Neil, shall we go through our scoring system?
Yes, let's wrap this up.
Cool, Neil. So the skunk ape spookiness. What do you think? Your first score of 2023.
Unfortunately, it's not going to be a huge one because what's more spooky, as you're saying, is kind of like
the animal experimentation that's going on.
I don't know if experimentation. What they're breeding these apes for, I don't know. Or
put lipstick on them to see if it's going to hurt you.
Breeding these primates off. Yeah, well, I don't know if it's animal testing or if it's.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be, isn't it? Basically.
Yeah, 100%.
I didn't think you could do that with orangutans and stuff.
Or underground jungle meat.
Yeah. Or skunk ape armor, which I like to think.
Yeah.
Clearly not true. Yeah, so that's spooky. But no, again, it's the thing with a lot of these cryptids, it's kind of like you just think that they want to, be off and do their own thing, really.
Yeah, not bothering anyone.
Yeah, I feel,
Unless you're a lima bean farmer.
Oh yeah, they'll eat you out of house and home.
Right.
But fortunately, I'm not, so I don't care.
Good.
So yeah, it's going to be. I mean, yeah. Well, the thing is, even if it's a huge thing, they're just sticking to their own point in the swamps, and it's kind of like saying a lion or something special. Because I think if you came across one in the wild, you might be a bit scared. But then again, how likely is that to happen if you're not, keep themselves to themselves? So yeah, low spookiness to me. I think they're just looking after themselves. So it's going to be a 2 out of 10 for me on spookiness.
Yeah, I don't think it's very spooky. I mean, I think it depends how human-like it is. So the more human-like, the more spooky it would be.
So like a human's face. He's surprisingly good looking. He looks a lot like Brad Pitt.
Yeah, it's got the face of Nathan Farron on it, or whatever. No, I think that's kind of just like it, the uncanny valley thing. But they're not even that big, really. I mean, I'm like, if they're 6.5 foot,
you reckon you can take a skunk ape?
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. No, I'm not saying that, but I mean 6.5 foot.
Yeah.
Then that's 2 inches.
6.5 to 7 foot. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they're not massive. Yeah. You know what I mean?
They're basketball playing territory, but not.
Yeah, but not. I mean, if they're 6.5,
not the biggest.
Then they're not. They're not really. They're not dunking anytime. Yeah. Not much. So yeah, they're not particularly spooky. Obviously the animal testing stuff's spooky, but I don't think I can include that in here.
No.
So I'll give it a 3. So believability. Well, there's lots of photos and stuff about how believable or not they are. Is kind of neither here nor there, but there's a lot of, for something like this, there's a fair amount of evidence. And he says in inverted commas, but and as I always am with kind of at least kind of realistic sort of cryptids, then there's always a chance. You know what I mean? And also, I mean, the people around there seem to believe it, and also, I mean, there's all these ape black sites around there as well. So I mean, even if it's not a skunk ape, there could be some kind of ape kicking around. So I think believability is quite high. So I'm going to give it an 8. Neil.
Yeah. Again, that came as news to me. The fact that they're breeding primates all over that kind of part of Florida, I hadn't really expected that. I suppose the thing about the weather kind of makes a bit of sense, but so that gives it some a bit more air of credibility. And again, as we always say, it's not about whether or not we actually believe that this thing is true. It's around general believability for is there a possibility that people are just completely making it up? And you kind of think if this guy's dedicated his life to it, it could be making some money, but it sounds like he's kind of like the business is diminishing and stuff. So I think he's not going to be that driven to do it. I think he probably believes there is something to that, and he's seen. I don't find it unbelievable that he's seen something that he's convinced himself there's something going out there. Whether or not he's made up other videos to try and reinforce that, as they've theorised, this is people make their own minds up. So I'm going to give it a 7.
7. Okay, narrative premise, Neil.
Yeah, I think it's sort of on the face of it. There's a lot of these cryptid ones. There probably isn't that much, but I think that there's something quite interesting here. So I like the fact that he's like going out and howling at his monkey brothers who are in the private facility. So I think that's an unexpected twist. I think that could go somewhere. The fact that you kind of like got the park rangers buying up all of the farm and sort of dislocating people who run their family businesses there. I think there's a little bit of a tale that could be told on here around the edges of it. So I think it could be quite interesting. And I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for a narrative.
So it could go one of two ways for me. So you've got that it's a kind of monkey spirit thing that's like in this place of horror for other monkeys. So like a Studio Ghibli kind of thing, where it's like a forest spirit and big government are buying up all the land around there, and there's the one guy that's kind of believes in it and stuff. So you could have that, or you could go the other way, where it's his sloth from the Goonie style brother that lives in a shed and drinks tractor fuel and eats frogs. That you could go kind of slightly more
compelling stories,
more Rob Zombie way if you wanted. So you could do both, do a double feature. So there's stuff there. So I'm going to join you with a 7. So Reach, I have heard of it, unsurprisingly. I don't know how big it is throughout. I mean, like, obviously I've heard of it because, it's my job to know about these things now. But yes. I don't know how big it is around America. It's probably it seems to be pretty big in Florida. It's been on TV and stuff. It's a bit of a tourist attraction. but it's not nationwide, and it's certainly not global. So I'm going to give it a 4 for Reach Nil.
Okay, a bit higher for me because I think it is a bit well known, but I think it's one of those ones that's a bit tricky because there's a lot of different types of kind of like Bigfoot that seem to be knocking around. So how well known this one is compared to the other ones, but because it's part of the extended Bigfoot family, it's certainly well known in Florida. I imagine it's pretty well known around the rest of America, but they wouldn't be as enamoured with it as the people in Florida, where it's much more a part of their kind of local culture, etc. So
regional government.
Is that true? So I'm going to give it a 6.
6. Okie dokie. So that gives us a overall score of 44. Not too bad. Above the waterline. So that's it. Happy 2023, y'all. I hope let's fingers crossed this year is a bit of an uptick compared to the last 40, 50 years.
We've set a nice low baseline to clear, so let's try and do that this year.
But we'll carry on, and hopefully you get some enjoyment out of us talking nonsense about things that may or may not exist. And
almost certainly don't.
And we will be back same time next Thursday. Thanks everyone for listening. We do appreciate it, and hope you've had a nice holiday period. We love you all, and see you soon.
And goodbye.
Antennae. Server. USB. Wi-Fi. Chip and pin. Mini disc.